Okay, there it is. Okay, today in medicinal herbs, we're going to be discussing in this section the mints, or we can call it part of the mint family, five botanicals, and we're going to cover some terminology as well. Now, we're going to go from spearmint to pennyroyal. So all of these mints are in the mint family. We've got spearmint, peppermint, catnip, horse mint, and pennyroyal depicted here. First, we start with spearmint, also known as the meadow enhancer. Its botanical name is Mentha viridis. It's called garden mint, green mint, fish mint, lamb mint, mackerel mint, spearmint. So different places around the country, around the world, it may be called different things, oftentimes, including the term mint. It's cultivated all over the United States. So in other words, there are some places where it would naturally grow, in other places where it would not naturally be found or grow in its habitat. It is cultivated. So when people find that something is good, like a mint or a food or something, they often cultivate it in an area that could be foreign to it, or it's not naturally occurring. Now, what part of the mint do we use? What part of the spearmint do we use? The flowers and the leaves. Time of year is collected August to September. And it benefits gas, and that's upper and lower gas. Okay, so belching or gas coming out of the lower part. Dyspepsia, which is also gastric disturbance, spasms, dropsy, gravel in bladder, hemorrhoids, morning sickness, dysuria, and suppressed urine. We can use spearmint as an infusion, tincture, or tincture. And then its medicinal properties are as a carminative, which is relieving gas, or stimulant, diuretic, and antispasmodic. Now, for the medical uses and preparations for spearmint, for gas in the stomach and bowels, for dyspepsia, spasm, dropsy, gravel in the bladder, or piles, again, that's hemorrhoids, by injection. You would make a standard infusion and take 1 cupful BID, or 2 times a day. Morning and evening is recommended in this case. For colic and cramps, spearmint and horehound. So this is a combination, one of the first combinations they give you for using spearmint. And so colic, of course, children, babies get colic, but anyone can get cramps. So standard tincture for the combination, standard tincture, 10 drops 2 times a day. So when otherwise not mentioned, use equal parts of the spearmint and horehound. So for example, half an ounce or ounce or whatever it is, you'd use equal parts there and make that as a standard tincture. And then for vomiting during pregnancy, so that's that morning sickness, dysuria or suppressed urine. You can make a tincture by gathering leaves and flowering heads and placing it in a half-quart jar. Add enough gin, and sometimes they'll say gin, other times you may see vodka, or they might just say alcohol. But gin, vodka, the clear liquors are usually what's used. So you add enough gin to cover the herb and soak for 7 days. So you're soaking it. Again, another term for that is macerate. and then express, filter, and bottle. Dosage is 10 to 50 essentially drops in hot water 2 times a day. Then we have peppermint, also known as the rodent chaser, Mentha piperita. It's found all over the United States, and most likely same as the spearmint because it's cultivated all over. And we still use the stems and leaves like the spearmint. Collecting it or harvesting it same time of year, August and September. Brandy mint, wine, white mint, or balm mint, it may be called. This is beneficial for a problem that so many, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people have: insomnia, and then colic, flatulence, dysentery, vomiting, headache, infection, toothache, and palpitations of the heart as well. How do we use this? Infusion, tincture, by fluid extract, or as a commercial oil. We've all heard of peppermint oil. It's used as an antiseptic. That's one of its medicinal properties, as a carminative, as a nervine, and as stomachic. The medicinal uses or medical uses and preparations for peppermint for insomnia, colic, flatulence, dysentery, vomiting, or headaches is an infusion. So take that tea, take that infusion by the wine glass full frequently as needed, okay, in order to get relief. Now, I will say this as kind of a precautionary note with, we're speaking about, when we're speaking about colic, we're speaking about babies. So typically what you'll do, and I'll share the rule with you in one of the sessions, and that is that for babies, for children, for um, you adjust the dose accordingly. So there's a rule in terms of how you adjust it based on the age or the size of a person. Okay. But this one you can drink pretty freely, again, by the wine glass full. Or, with babies, it wouldn't be a wine glass full, of course, but for adults, enough to get relief. Now, for infection or toothache, you can make this into a tincture. So the peppermint tincture, standard tincture preparation methods, the dosage would be 5 to 20 drops 3 times a day. And if you want to break that up and just say, morning, afternoon, and evening, or, you start off at, let's say you start off at 8 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 4 o'clock, just according to your schedule. And for colic, flatulence, or palpitation of the heart fluttering, it's not beating properly. Fluid extract, so we can make this into a fluid extract, dosage 1/4 to 1 drachm. I'll give you the equivalence information on that, 3 times a day. And for colic and flatulence, you can also use a commercial oil. So we're not making peppermint oil. It is available commercially through some sources. And to make a distinction, this is different than some essential oils. So you have to make sure that the oil is okay for internal use. And I know there's debates and various information in terms of application. Some people think you can take all essential oils, or you only take essential oils externally. There's some that can be used internally. You want to reference the source and act accordingly as well, because normally there'll be some type of instructions along with that, whether, again, some things can be used internally or externally. And I'll get into a bit into the various ways that you can process, or the different ways that you can extract oils, and why, if oils are used in certain are extracted in some ways where you absolutely never want to use those internally. You'd only use those externally. And then sometimes that's externally on the body, or it can be externally, for example, in diffusion where it might go into the air. Now, and then further, the medical uses for teething or cold and flu. Here, it gives three very good combinations: peppermint, yarrow, elderberry, and flower. Elderberry, this could be elderberry flowers. A standard infusion of equal parts. And then under combinations, half ounce of peppermint, skullcap, and pennyroyal. Standard infusion, strain, and sweeten that. And then under colds and flu, again, equal parts peppermint, yarrow, elderberry flowers. Standard infusion of equal parts. So you can make a tea combination there, colds and flu. And that, I'll tell you, that's not I haven't found that to be a common cold or flu preparation form. You'll hear about elderberry for the immune system for flus. You won't, I typically, in my experience, I haven't seen this particular combination applied for the cold and flu often. So maybe something that you want to try or look more into. And then we have catnip, the feline fascinator. And I've got a cat, and it absolutely fascinates her. So they put in all types of. If you've ever had a cat, you know that the catnip is something they'll seek out. They want to play with it. If you got some catnip around, they're going to find it, and they may go a little nutsy over it. So Nepeta cataria is its botanical name. And here, if you ever have to think, remember this, think back on it, or you might see it in a quiz or something. Here's how I remember, and here this particular mint is the catnip. In the second part in the second word, it's cat. In the first part of the first word is nep. So catnip. In fact, sometimes you'll see it depending on the reference, the book that you might find it in. Sometimes it will be spelled CATNEP instead of CATNIP. And then where is it found? All over the United States. Part of the plants used, again, flowers and leaves. August, September, so similar guidelines in terms of when the mints will be ready for harvest. And then this benefits fever, stomach acid, colic, flatulence, and produces urine where it has stopped. Okay. And then infusion or tincture, and its medicinal properties are as an anodyne, antispasmodic, aromatic, diaphoretic, nervine, or refrigerant. Then the uses for catnip: for fever, stomach acid, colic, flatulence, in producing urination where it has stopped. An infusion. How much? 2 tablespoons, 4 times a day. Or in children, 2 to 3 teaspoonfuls, 3 times a day. And for scarlet fever and smallpox, mix equal parts of saffron and catnip as an infusion. As a tincture, standard tincture preparation methods, the dosage 5 to 20 drops, 3 times a day, TID. For fever, stomach acid, colic, flatulence, and urine production as well. Then we have horse mint, which is also known as Montezuma's placator. And if you have traveled out of the country or in areas where if they say be careful about drinking the water, and this is indicative of some places in Mexico, even though it's not exclusively Mexico. If you've ever heard of Montezuma's Revenge, where somebody goes somewhere and they drink the water, and I say drink the water, so you can get water from, of course, drinking it from a tap in some areas where they don't have water in the same water purification type systems. Some places will caution you to bring your own water or to only drink bottled water. Some people even um, use bottled water for brushing their teeth. Why? Because there are certain bacteria in the water, there's certain organisms in the water that you're not accustomed to. So the local people will be perfectly fine. They grew up with it from the time they were babies, so their bodies have adapted. But it's foreign to your body. So you can get very sick. You can get from a little sick to terrible diarrhea and all types of digestive upset. It typically manifests as digestive upset as opposed to something that impacts the immune system or something. Now, Monarda, punctata, lutea, didyma, and fistulosa are the botanical names. Now, in this particular case, you've got at least 4 botanical names for the medicinal aspect or horse mint. Okay. So all of them are, all of these would be considered medicinal. Found all over the United States, flowers and leaves again, collected August and September in the fall. It's also called spotted monarda, bergamot, bee balm. It benefits colds, diarrhea, stomach gas, and rheumatism. It can be used as an infusion, tincture, or an oil. It's a carminative, diuretic, stimulant, diaphoretic, and rubefacient. Medical uses and preparations for the horse mint for colds, diarrhea, stomach gas, and colic. Use it as an infusion. Standard infusion preparation methods: 1 capful BID, morning and evening. That means it's got to be kind of powerful. You don't take it a capful. Okay. For colds, diarrhea, stomach gas, and colic, it can also be used as a tincture. Now, in preparing this tincture of horse mint, you're placing the leaves and the flowering heads in a half-quart jar, adding gin to cover the herb, soaking it or macerating it for 7 days. And then you express it, filter it, bottle and cork, and then take 10 to 50 drops in hot water 2 times a day, BID. For rheumatism, special preparation. And again, we're not making these. There are some commercial, in some places where you can get the commercial form of the, in this case, horse mint. Okay. Not as common as the peppermint. And then we have pennyroyal, also known as the anti-seizure plant. So you can imagine what that's for, right? Its botanical name, Idioma Poligiotes mentha polgium. Where is it found? All over the United States. So these mints have got to be powerful, have got to be common, have got to be in high demand for them all to be cultivated and found all over the United States, because that's why they're there. The flowers, stems, and leaves. So in this particular case, with the pennyroyal, we're using the stems, not just the flowers and leaves. Collected June to August. It's going to present a little bit differently, and you can see the flower head there looks different than the other mints as well. And Pelagium, Squam American Pennyroyal, run by the ground. It's got a number of different names. It benefits, and there ergo the name, the anti-seizure plant, epilepsy, in addition to colds, flus, fever, jaundice, and lack of perspiration, colic, and gas on the stomach. And we use it as an infusion, tincture, even a powder. So, of course, you dry that, powder it in, for example, encapsulate that. Medicinal properties: carminative, diaphoretic, insect repellent, and anti-spasmodic. So the pennyroyal is an insect repellent. And then we also have our our peppermint, which is our rodent repeller. Okay. Another good reason to cultivate it and have it all available all over, right? Medical uses and preparations for pennyroyal for epilepsy, colds, flu, fever, jaundice, lack of perspiration, colic, or gas on the stomach is an infusion, standard infusion. 1 teacupful 3 times a day is a tincture, standard tincture. That would be 1/2. 1/2 to 1 fluid dram, BID, or 2 times a day, and is a powder dosage 30 to 50 grains. So that's when you encapsulate it, 30 to 50 grain capsule, take that 2 times a day if powdered. And then mint identification. So don't worry about you're not going to get this all at one time. This is good information to reference because the mints are similar in terms of their actions. They're different in appearance. The mints in the Labiatae family are identified by their aromatic scent and structurally their square stems. So 2 things there. Is that all the mints are called aromatic, and that refers to aroma. They tend to have a strong aroma. How do you identify some of them, and how do you know if it has a strong aroma? It's not, you may smell them a bit depending on how sensitive you are, or you would for example, take a leaf or something and crush it up and smell it. And then they're also known by their petals, the corolla, the flowering head, are united, forming a tube which forms 2 lips on the outward part of the plant, hence the name labiatae, or lips. And it is a large family with about 150 genera and over 3,000 species. There's a lot of mints that are in this family or in this species. So the 5 that we've identified are kind of the tip of the surface. It's almost cosmopolitan in distribution, but seldom grows in Arctic or alpine regions. So it would be growing lower to the ground because there are some herbs, there are some plants that have an affinity for or grow in upper elevations. Okay. But actually, it's like the higher the elevation, or in certain climates, certain areas, the foliage, the plants are limited. So, there are ways of identifying the plants, also by knowing if you're way up in the mountains, you're probably not going to find the mints. Right? That's when they speak about the alpine mountains, or in very cold areas. That's not an area that's conducive for it. Now, spearmint is a perennial mint which grows from creeping rhizomes. Okay, you remember we talked about the root structure, and then rhizomes kind of grow out. They crawl. They spread. Okay, so when you're growing mint, for example, if you grow in a pot or a confined area, you almost have to confine it. Otherwise, those rhizomes are going to creep out, and they can grow all over. There's no limit to where they're only limited by the barriers they'll run into. So if it ran into rock or some, cement or something like that, it's not going to grow, of course, to there or on the cement, but it will grow. But any place where you have soil and some conditions that are fairly decent for them to grow. The leaves are sessile or spiked, and that's attached stem without a leaf petiole. And I know sessile and spiked, I know that's new terminology, but wait, there's more. So I can show you what sessile or spiked look like. Because part of what we do in our herb walk or medicinal plant identification is go out in nature and look at the plants to identify them as well. And then stamens for flower color. So pale lavender to white. Peppermint is a perennial, which also grows underground, stems, rhizomes. Leaves are petiolate, lanceolate, ovate to elliptic. What that's referring, flowers are crowded in a dense terminal spike. They can be pink, lavender to white. So what's that essentially saying? It's no doubt new information for you, is that when we're identifying, and that part is called morphology, when we're identifying herbs, when we're identifying plants, even though they may, if especially if we're unfamiliar with it, some of them pretty much look the same. So okay, some will just call them weed, or they're looking a lot the same. It's hard to distinguish. But when you start to identify, you say, okay, one, the mints are distinguished by one, their square stems. Okay. Now, a lot of plants, a lot of herbs have round stems, but a distinction with the mints are that they have square stems. So if you were to pick a mint and look at it closely, you may or may not need magnification, but you look at it closely, then you would notice that the stem is square. It's not round. And then the petals or the flower, the flowers will look different. And the colors, lavender, white, pale lavender, they have different colors and different structures, so you can identify them as well. The shape of the leaves will be different as well. Okay, so there are different distinctions. The flower head, the stem, how the leaves are shaped, how they're arranged on the stem, so they can be opposite, they can be alternate. All these things tell us how to identify the various herbs. And then we look at it and say, oh, that is different. Okay. And then again, the shape of the leaves, etc. Okay. We go further. Horse mint generally grows on a singular stem with one or several dense terminal flower heads. The leaves are toothed, and the plant is mostly perennial. The corolla is three-lobed. Plant is named after the Spanish physician and botanist Nicholas Menardis. Stamens too, pink to purple. So see, you got pale, lavender to white, pink, purple. And the next catnip is a taproot perennial. So another way of identifying these herbs is by their root. Okay, because some of them can look similar, but they're different. And so there are some herbs that are commonly mistaken. I thought that was a dandelion, and it's not. It could be something else in the same family, but they are distinctive characteristics. And then again, so you got the flower, you got the leaves, you got the stem, you have the color, and then you also have the root. Okay, is it taproot like a carrot, or are the leaves? I mean the roots shaped, formed differently. It commonly has 3 or more stems per plant. Corolla is two-lipped, stamen 4, and flower color of the catnip whitish, dotted with purple, and it's rarely yellow. Pennyroyal is an annual or can be perennial, grows in the dry open in lower elevations. Corolla bilabiate in stamens 4, flower color light purple. And then now, so here's a glossary of terms here. An anodyne, so you heard about the medicinal applications and such. An anodyne is a pain reliever. Okay, anodyne is a pain reliever. Aromatic, a substance with a fragrant smell, which possess stimulant factors. It may stimulate your senses. It may stimulate the organs in your body. It may stimulate hunger. Okay. Anti-hemorrhagic, an agent which stops bleeding. So whenever you hear bleeding or hear hemorrhage, then that's bleeding. An antiseptic, substance or medicinal agent which prevents or destroys microorganisms responsible for decay or putrefaction. Antispasmodic, used to relieve spasms of involuntary muscles. It's antiossive, relieving or preventing coughs. Astringent, agents which cause the tissues to contract. Astringents are vasoconstrictors or blood vessel constrictors, inhibiting the bleeding process. So you're out in nature, or there's a cut or something, someone gets it home, and maybe it's not so bad that you need to rush to the hospital. You may put an astringent on there to inhibit the bleeding process. Carminative relieves stomach and intestinal gases. You heard carminative referred to a number of the mints. And if you look at the mint family, you say, generally speaking, those are for the digestive system. The mints are good for the digestive system, which is a reason why, even though we have like after dinner mints, mint was served with meals. Mint tea is served with some meals. If people have digestive concerns, sometimes they want to, get some mint. One of the best ways I would prefer that over these tum-to-tum-tums and stuff like that is try some mint. And incidentally, even though they're called mints, has become somewhat of a generic term. There's probably little or no mint in many of the mint candies or mint formulas or preparations. They've gotten very good at mimicking the taste of mint. And then you've got a demulcent, an agent that soothes irritated or inflamed surfaces, mucilaginous medicine or application. So I give an example, aloe vera, or aloe vera gel. That's mucilaginous. It's like mucus. When there is irritation or inflammation in the body, that happens is the body may produce mucus to smooth that out, to soothe the irritation. Now, I know you may have heard of, and you may read and hear people say, oh, mucus is disease, or mucus is a problem, or, the problem, everything is mucus, this and that and whatever. Mucus is one is naturally occurring in different parts of the body, like the respiratory system, the digestive system, the reproductive system, particularly in women. So mucus occurs. And mucus is also a response of irritation or inflammation. It is the symptom typically, not the disease. It's an indication of something wrong. So we're not fighting mucus. We want to find out if there's excessive mucus. We want to find out why that is. And the color of the mucus will give you an indication as to whether the mucus is normal and naturally occurring, or if there is an infectious process going on. That's indicated by the color. And the stage in which you're in the infection. So for example, someone has clear mucus, it starts getting cloudy, white, then it goes yellow, even brown, dark brown, or green. Guess what? You go on into an infectious process. But if it's been heavy and thick and brown or green or strong yellow or something, and it's going from that to white and clear, you're coming out of an infection. So we would take antibiotic herbs or antibiotics, even medications, as we go into an infection to address the infection, as opposed to coming out of it. So the way are things getting worse or are they getting better? All right. So that's something that you can just kind of, put a mental note on and say, oh, now I understand understand better what's going on with your body. And again, mucus is not a disease. Mucus is a symptom of irritation or inflammation and a naturally occurring symptom. And it's, if we didn't have the mucus there, what would be going on? So some of the mucus is the response of for example, the immune system. So there's a couple of things that happen. So one, it's kind of lubrication to address the inflammation or irritation. And in the case of the thicker and or the darker or the colored mucus, that's showing the body's natural immune system, the white blood cells and the other cells that from the immune system that attack, that encapsulate, that ingest, or that buffer and fight against foreign invasion. So I relate the immune system to being like the Army, Navy, Marine, Air Force, and Special Forces. You have immune tissue, lymphatic tissue throughout the body. And it's fighting things, whether it comes through your breathing, your eating, your drinking, come in contact with your body. It's always working, it's always on guard. And it has various components in there, like the Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, and Special Forces, that have certain attributes to address these foreign invaders. And it doesn't all do the same thing. So sometimes it confines it, sometimes it ingests it, sometimes it makes it implode. Other times it holds on to it until it can be carried out of the body. So different aspects. And then expectorant. Oh, wait a minute. No, diaphoretic. An agent which promotes perspiration or unusually profuse sweating. Now, if people perspire or have profuse sweating, oftentimes that is because they have a fever. And there are times when we will fight a fever, or they'll believe, okay, well, we got to bring this fever down. When it's the body's natural reaction to raising the temperature so that certain organisms will not survive in that temperature. And that's just usually by degrees. It can just be a few degrees. It can be a low-grade fever. Sometimes it gets high. If it gets too high, got to be careful of that. But otherwise, if the body can raise the temperature and eradicate whatever the foreign offender is, great. Now, with a diaphoretic, that is when we induce perspiration. That's when we want the body to heat up. That we say, oh, we're going to kind of cook this. We're going to cook the foreign invader out. And that's where mom and them would give us hot toddies and wrap us up with, and we have our flannel pajamas, or, bundle us up real good, put us under the covers. And so between the alcohol, the effects of the alcohol, and alcohol can be used therapeutic. There are absolutely medicinal applications for alcohol. Most people don't use it that way, but traditionally there are medicinal applications for alcohol. The hot toddy, for example, is one of those applications. Utilizing that along with certain herbs that produce sweating, again, will mimic a fever and pull things up. So normally, if you've produce the diaphoretic effect or diaphoresis, and someone has gone through this sweating and everything, by the time they get through the night and they've gone through all that, they've gone through the sweating and, maybe nose running or something going on, that fever is broken and then they're fine. And the immune system is stronger as a result. Okay. Now, then we have expectorant agent, which helps the ejection of mucus. So that's how we get, mucus out, especially when it's in the lungs and the bronchial tubes and whatever. We want to produce it like, you want a productive cough. You want it to produce mucus. You want to get that mucus out of the body after the immune system is done its work. And the hemostatic agent, which checks or stops the flow of blood. Heme or hemo, Heme or HEMO, always relates to blood. Static, stagnation, slowing, stopping. Hemorrhage, same thing. A large escape of blood from the vessels, bleeding. It's more than just a little prick or cut or something. We got a drop of blood. Hemorrhaging is large amounts of blood. Narcotic, an agent which produces deadening or numbing feeling or condition. Nervine, an agent which alleviates pain. That's not morphine or narcotics. So you got, and then refrigerant is for cooling, an agent for relieving fever or thirst. And then rubefacient, ruby, think ruby, red, an agent which reddens the skin. Why would you want to redden the skin? Brings blood to the surface for the benefits of the blood. What's contained in the blood? Certain immune cells, cells for the immune system, and to get nutrients in and waste out. So sometimes you need to, there are some rubefacients that are doing that to promote healing. And then stomachic is an agent or medicine which promotes the functional activities of the stomach. Sometimes stomach is sluggish, needs to be activated. And so there we go. So those are some of the terms that were covered in this section. And that brings us right to what? Our break. Okay. So I know you got some questions and things we'll have after we come back from break. It is by my watch, it is 7:05. You know what? I'm gonna give you the 7. It's almost 7:06. 7:16. Back in the room. See you soon.